This is the websites.ca podcast, where we help Canadian small businesses build and maintain an effective website and online presence.
Hello, everybody. Sean Corbett here, websites.ca marketing. We have a very special episode today. This is our 50th episode. We've made it to number 50. And so in honor of that, I decided to bring on the man, the myth, and the legend, the websites.ca co-founder, John Hart. And just before I let John on here, I want to say, most of us have been with websites.ca for a long time, a decade plus. Almost everybody who works for the company sticks around. And John was the first person to give me my start in this business. So it means a lot to me. And then I think, let's say hi, John. And I think you have something interesting to tell us about a milestone at websites.ca this year as well.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I noticed that we have been doing this now for 25 years come this summer. So time flies.
And there's been many iterations of the company, right? You were not always called websites.ca.
That's true. Some of the names are irritating to even remember how complicated they were. But yeah, we originally started back in 1999. I feel like it was the summer we kind of got the idea. I mean, the co-founder were here in Montreal, and his background is computer science. So he was studying at the time, and I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was studying marketing, something like that. And we were talking about starting a business. So seemed like a good idea. Maybe I was 23, something like that. We had a lot of really dumb ideas. I think the dumbest one was building docks, like for boats, and something to do with a modular dock system. I forget where that came up, where Spencer's the co-founder, where Spencer came up with that. But that was a pretty weird idea. But I remember we were at some sort of a bar or club somewhere, and I remember him coming up to me and saying we should build websites. So websites were pretty new back in '99, and the idea was not to build these expensive, flashy, sort of retail-facing type business websites. And in those days, you did actually had Flash, if anybody remembers that technology, where a little animation would come on the screen and the words would fly in and all this stuff. And it seemed like it would just be while you're waiting for the page to load. So it was flashy and expensive. I feel like it costs tens of thousands of dollars to do some of these types of websites for these bigger type businesses back in those days. So Spencer's idea was we should build a simple software so we can build websites for people who are kind of behind the scenes. It was actually sort of manufacturing distributor type companies we were thinking about focusing on, and they would be able to update their website themselves. So cheap, inexpensive, easy, do it yourself, instead of a big flashy kind of a concept. So that was step one.
Yeah. And I recall that around that time and even later, you guys were one of the very few providers where it was pretty intuitive for a non-technical person to get on the website and be able to update it and change it, right?
Right, exactly. And the weird thing was this was before WordPress, before Wix, before any of these sort of content management system type websites where you could kind of build it yourself. And Spencer actually built the version 1 to be able to actually kind of run the back end and be able to go in and add pages. And we would have a catalog system. You could add folders and items, and it was it was designed to be super easy for anybody that even didn't know how to use a computer. But we did find out pretty quick that people were excited about the idea, but never really were able to get into it to actually be able to do the work. So it wasn't long before we sort of transitioned to sort of pivoted to us doing all the work for the customer. Yeah. But we'd still have the system there. So if they did want to go in, they could edit it themselves. And some would, but maybe, I feel like it was maybe 10% would actually figure it out and be excited to do it. So But it was always nice to pitch them and say, you can do it yourself if you want to. So people really appreciated the fact that they could if they felt like they wouldn't be stuck. They wanted to do it themselves.
Yeah, I'm sure some of the listeners, because they've been longtime clients, may even remember those days. But most of the people who watch the show don't know this. But when we used to call people to sell them a website, the big selling feature was that we would take them through live how to edit the site, and we'd go and edit a page together. And people loved that. And then, like you said, they loved it, and then they never really used it afterwards. So the websites.ca iteration today completely pivoted, as you said, to basically manage the entire website for people. And then we started to realize that a website is a website alone is really just an island, and it's all these interconnected things that are going on online that makes for a really successful website presence, right? So then we started to have to learn about SEO, and we had to learn about all of the various Google services. We had to learn how to help our clients with all those things. So now you guys sort of dip your toe in a little bit of everything right now, because you kind of have to be a holistic website provider, right?
Yeah, definitely. The main thing that people, I'm not sure how often they use it, but we set that up for all of our new customers, is the Google Analytics. So this is just the basic website statistics telling you who's coming, where they're coming from, which page they're visiting. You can get really into the detail where you can find out people that came to this particular page, where did they go next, or did they leave your site, did they fill out the form? So you can get some really interesting into the details there. The other thing is the Google Search Console, which is important to be able to see how your website is performing on the Google search engine. So you can actually see how many pages of your website and which pages are showing up in the Google search results. You can see what words people are searching for and where you show up in the search results, that is near to the top or on the second page or third page or whatever. And you can even see how many people are clicking when they see your page in the search results. So all this is really great. And again, it may be the case that a lot of the customers aren't digging into that, but we have that set up so whenever they do get interested, we can kind of walk them through it. And it's always collecting the data from the start of the website.
Yeah. So I mean, good. That's a bit of a backstory anyway, and obviously the folks haven't heard from you yet, so it's good to cover that. But what we thought everybody would be fun to do today is to kind of go soup to nuts through, starting a business and getting a business online, because it's not just the fact that we're a website company and we do it for clients. Before we started recording, John and I were talking that everybody we know in our life comes to us to ask us about websites, internet-based questions. I'm sure that, John, you probably had to help people set up their phones and printers also hundreds of times. For some reason, they also think that we're good at that too.
Yeah, my auntie just called me the other night. I thought it was an emergency, but she was calling me from Arizona to help my uncle to get his email to work, because he was forced to upgrade his Windows operating system, and he was dead in the water on his email. So it's quite emotional to try to have somebody hold a FaceTime iPhone pointing at the screen, and their hands are kind of moving around and trying to say, okay, click here and click here. And I switched to a Mac years ago, so I really barely know how Windows works. So just trying to look it up and walk them through it is it's a type of hell. And but yes, it keeps coming. But I learned a lot of patience walking customers through it back in the old days. We'd walk through how to set up your email, and I'd actually go, okay, Outlook Express, click this button, and I could do it just in my head and imagine what they're clicking. So yeah, good times walking through email. And I still do it to this day. But the thing about starting a business, my wife recently went independent from her business. She quit her job and went independent. And obviously, I decided to give her a few bits of advice about getting started with all the website side of things and the internet and the domain names and all this stuff. And then my brother called me about trying to start up his new brand. And then my brother-in-law called me And then we started our own new directory. If you know the websites.ca directory, which is the Canadian business website search, we started a new one to go outside of Canada, kind of go start the English speaking world, go into the US and try to go internationally. So we were starting up that brand. All this was happening at the same time. So I really got thinking about all the basics and kind of talking everybody through it. I realized I know kind of a lot of the fundamentals. So it seemed that I was able to really get them on the right track.
So yeah, I mean, I think we'll go through each thing. We won't cover it in massive detail, but we can kind of take people on a really wonderful vista and overview of everything that goes into this stuff. And obviously, anyone can follow up with us if they want more details. And you kind of let the cat out of the bag there. I haven't even announced the new directory yet, so we'll have to tell folks about that too towards the end of the episode. But let's jump in. Oh, go ahead. Did you have something to say?
Oh no, I was just going to say, I've got we had a great start, and then we've been hit by a big SEO update from Google around, I think it was March 5th. So that's a whole different story.
Yeah, well, people are going to find that's happening more often than not. We actually, you'll recall one of the episodes that we released earlier this year. We brought on Darren, that SEO guy, to talk about some of the changes, and he felt like there's just going to be more coming to accommodate AI, which I know you and I are going to cover today. So if people want to imagine that they're back in the golden days where you could walk them through on the phone by memory how to do things, well, things are changing pretty frequently now. So it's good to have somebody like websites.ca who has to keep an update with it so that you don't have to in your own business, because it's a little bit frustrating. Anyway, let's get started. The top thing, the first thing everybody thinks about when they go to get a website, they think about their website name. So John, what are the kind of the key points to consider when it comes to getting a domain name?
Yeah, domain names. Everybody is excited about that. Back in the in the beginning was probably quite a bit easier to find something good with a .com, but we always, and everybody really recommends that .com is going to be the best way to go. Just for the search engine results, just for people recognizing .com. There's a lot of gimmicky domain extensions, .ai, .co, .io, all of this stuff. But unless you're in a real niche kind of tech business, you're just going to be confusing people. Even with the .ca, if you're just in Canada, just doing business in Canada, or just a local business, .ca can be great. You can get a shorter, nicer .ca domain usually. And but yeah, if you're trying to work in the US or do business with other countries, people don't understand what's going on. .ca, it's in California. They don't know what they're doing. So the .com is always the best. And yeah, good luck finding a good .com these days. It reminds me of a few years back, forget what it was, I think 2017, was getting a lot of emails about a particular domain, sort of, I don't know where they were, overseas people making offers on this old 3-letter .com. So like abc.com. That wasn't what it was, but a 3-letter .com.
It could be something like eat.com, or
it could be anything really.
anything that's small enough.
If it's XXY, or there are some that are kind of less desirable letters, but this guy had an attractive 3-letter .com, yeah. And because I think he had retired. I don't know what had happened to him. He had canceled his website, retired, excuse me, and he had left the registration on the domain. He left us as the administrative contact. So long story short, we were getting emails of people saying, can I buy your 3-letter .com? And they're offering these outlandish offers, $10,000, $15,000. So I thought, wow, is this guy still around? So I tried to track down this domain to see if it was still accessible with our passwords and stuff. didn't have access to it. I tracked the guy down. He was some sort of a printer or printing company in Ottawa. Found the guy. He was retired. He said, "Yeah, I've seen those emails too, where people are making offers." So I said, "Well, you've got a really sweet asset there, your 3letter.com. Do you want me to sell it for you? And I'll take a little commission or whatever." So I put it out on the auction sites, and this is where you can go if you want to if you have a bit of a budget to get a more interesting .com name. But again, you can spend thousands of dollars depending on how interesting or how short the name is. But with this guy, we put it on an auction, and I believe it sold for 25,000 euros. Why euros? Because in the auction, you choose the currency, and I think they were 24,999 was one of the cutoff points. So he put it as the auction guy put it as euros, and sold pretty quick. So .com, 3letter.com, if you have one or you know anybody that has one, they're still selling for a fortune. I actually helped my sister-in-law a few years ago get a 4letter.com for her business, and it was still really pricey, but I think the price had 4 digits in it rather than 5. So yeah, that's how wild it is with the sort of the speculation on the .coms. But you can always get something simple. You often want to avoid any of the complications. You don't want the hyphens. It's not ideal to have numbers in there. And then the other issue is sometimes people will put ltd.com or my business name corp.com. Again, just adding complications makes it more difficult for people to remember. And especially if you're over the phone, it's going to confuse people if they don't know how to spell it, or it's too long or whatever, which is what happened to us. The websites.ca story. Should we get into the websites.ca story?
Yeah, I was totally going to ask about that. And I just wanted to say about your 3letter.com story. And again, for people who are following along, like we literally mean a word that's 3 or 4 letters long because it's just so branded. It's worth so much money. Like if you had food.com or sales.com or whatever. But anyway, John, I don't know if you remember this, but back in the day, I think even before I started with you guys, I wasn't that familiar with online, but definitely after I started with you, there was a lot of conversations about domains. And I would remember talking to some crazy sounding dudes who ran their own businesses, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I got 30 domains."
Yes.
And I would think, why do you have so many domains? And they would literally be sitting on them. And now, whatever, 20 years later, I'm the idiot. They are not crazy at all. Those guys were probably, I can't believe that it became something that was worth money. So it's
Maybe
so funny.
it was kind of silly when people would get excited because they had talked to some domain registrar before they talked to us, and whatever the salesman at the domain registrar said, "Oh, you know what, just in case, you should get yourname.com, yourname.ca, yourname.info, yourname.org." And,
Yeah, that was
then
silly.
every combination. And again, that felt to me that just kind of a waste of time. So if you do have the .com, I wouldn't worry about the .ca. But yeah, sometimes if these people got into that domain reselling, they made a fortune. That I did. It reminds me of another one that we did. A customer had left a domain with us, went out of business, abandoned it. And so I renewed it when it was expiring. So then it was ours. I won't mention any names. It was a nice 2-word common phrase.com. And so I put that one on an auction because I was just coming off that big win on my 3letter.com. And I just put it on at some random price. I think it was $1,500 or $2,000. And I think it was actually Christmas morning, sitting, reading, eating breakfast, reading my email. And I get the notice, the buyer has accepted your offer, and somebody bought that domain for $1,500. I think it was $1,500 US, quite a long time ago. So really, from nothing, somebody abandons it, and it looked like an interesting phrase. So I feel like it's sort of like buying Bitcoin at the beginning or buying Apple stock at the beginning. It's too late, but it's neat when you run into that and see how expensive it can be.
Well, to your point about the company name, yeah. So we used to be frustrated trying to tell people our old name over the phone and trying to explain what it meant and blah blah blah. So we all brainstormed, I think, and like, why don't we just call ourselves website? Like, why don't we just say? Why don't we just call the company name What We Do? Which, by the way, is another bit of advice for you folks that we didn't plan to talk about. But yeah, just if I had to start over again, I also would just call my company What I Do and probably put my name in it. So my kids, when they inherit it, they can just say whatever, Corbin family. But anyhow, so when we settled on that, we're going to just call the company what it is that we provide for people. We did not own the websites.ca domain. So yeah, if you want to tell a brief version of that story. What do we pay for that, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, are we naming names? And
it's up to you. It's up to you.
I'll say it was Spencer who found that websites.ca. So he was the one that brought that concept to the table for everybody. And yeah, we thought, wow, that's amazing. Websites.ca. And same situation. Somebody had it and was reselling it. And I won't say how many what the first number was, but there were 4 numbers in the price. So pretty reasonable for what seems like sort of like there were the Canadian websites company, websites.ca. So we were excited about that. We got that. But then we started running into, the same problem. In those days, we would call businesses, whether we were calling them about our directory, which we can get into, but if we were talking to a potential lead or potential customer, and we'd be telling them, you can check us out. You can check out the website. We're websites.ca. And they would always blink and they'd say, what is it? Website.com? And that's the thing about the .ca, that people just they can't, I don't know, in those days, 2010 was when we first became websites.ca, but you'd repeat it over and over again to get exhausting. Websites with an S, websites.
Yeah, they'd call us website without any dot anything, or websites without any dot anything.
Right, and that was the other problem with the name, that when we got websites.ca, and then people just would call us websites, and they say, how are the guys doing over at websites? And it's not ideal for branding, because
or referrals, right? Well, who does your website? Well, website does my website.
Exactly. If somebody's at their church meeting or their Rotary Club or whatever clubs people are going to these days, and they say, oh yeah, I just love my website company. Everybody should check them out. Yeah, they're called websites. So people go on Google websites. Well, there's infinity different businesses when I look up websites. So that was annoying. And even with the SEO, it was difficult, because the way Google's kind of evolved, that Google can now recognize websites.ca as an entity that can be found in the search. But in the beginning, when our name was websites.ca, it was sort of being interpreted as just websites space CA. So it was just random generic words. And this was frustrating, that we were, that everybody said the name was amazing, but we had these really kind of irritating problems, which also reminds me of the phone number. We got a toll-free number back in the old days. People used to like toll-free numbers. I don't even know if there's any reason to use a toll-free number now, but we found that I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but the number is 877-517-7867. But that takes a long time to say. It turns out all those sevens, 7 is the only number that has 2 syllables. So it takes you almost twice as long to say that toll-free number. So watch out for 7s in your phone number, and we'll get to that with with our virtual phone number company that we use, which is maybe that's the transition to talk about these phone number guys. Was there anything we missed talking about on the name, the domain name?
No, I think that's good. I mean, it's a funny story and it's fun to recount it with you, but actually there are some lessons in there for people. So I hope they say we're not just laughing and complaining about stuff. You really should think this stuff through from a point of view of saying it to people over the phone, searching for it online, all that kind of stuff. It is really good advice. So yeah, the transition's as good as any. It's good for me. Um, People would come to us and we had to do the same for ourselves, for our staff, is not just have like an actual phone or mobile phones, but you have been setting up virtual phone numbers well for as long as I've worked with you. So yeah, tell us a little bit about those and what do you recommend people do with them nowadays?
Yeah, this is a great company we use. They're called grasshopper.com. And I remember in the beginning back in 99, we were trying to cut costs or minimize costs. And there was hot new technology, the voice over internet. So you could make a VoIP call and it would be choppy, it would have a lag. And that technology, it has evolved quite a bit. But in the beginning, it was just, I don't know what kind of frustration that is, but if there's a delay and then the other person has a delay and then you talk over each other, maybe you see that on the news sometimes when they're on the satellite feed, super maddening. And yeah, if you're talking to people all day over the phone, this was a super hassle. But over time that got better. But with the Grasshopper service, the cool thing that they have is back in those days, we thought about you call the number and then you can press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, put in an extension to get to somebody directly. So we set it up that way, and Grasshopper had that service, so you can map all of the extensions, all of the departments, and then right through their website, you could have it terminate at any phone number in the world. So if I'm in Montreal, somebody's in Winnipeg, the customer just calls that main number, types in the extension, and it goes right to that right person's cell phone. And then by using the virtual numbers through Grasshopper, you can have you can have a 204 number if you're in Manitoba. You can have a 780 number if you're in Edmonton. Is that the one? 403 is Calgary, right?
Yeah,
780.
yeah, 780 is Edmonton, Northeast Calgary. But I mean, again, I talk about this with a lot of business owners now because of mobile phones and people moving around. That's less powerful than it was, but I can confirm for you because I haven't told you this yet, actually. I've been doing a bunch of text outreach for clients, and you can imagine that when you're cold texting people, which is a grind in and of itself, you'd better look for affinity markers. And so if you're gonna text people in an area where most of their area code is 403, you better choose a 403 number. And I would recommend the same thing to all businesses. Don't do the toll free at all. Don't have a corporate number. Get local office numbers. And actually, I'm sure we'll cover this as well on this talk today. It kind of would help you tie into Google Maps as well. I would say it just makes it a little bit more local and a little bit more. I don't know. Yeah, affinity is the word I like keeps coming to mind.
Yeah, people will screen your calls. I screen calls. I don't ever answer my phone unless it's somebody I know. I think there's a button on iPhone that says silence unknown callers. So I imagine most businesses get all sorts of spam and junk and scams and salesmen calling them all the time. So you're definitely going to have better results if you're calling with a local number rather than some bizarre toll-free or whatever it is that shows up in their caller ID. But the other part of that with Grasshopper is you can send a text with that number, your virtual number, and there's just an app for your phone, so you can text just like you're texting regularly. Text from that number, receive texts at that number. And then you can have a little bit of privacy of your own personal phone. I think we all use our our mobile number. So nobody wants to give that out to everybody and get even more junk calls. So when you have that virtual number for your business, you can map it to forward to you to your cell phone, or you can actually call out with that number with the app on your cell phone. So when you call a customer, they don't They don't see your local number. They see that Grasshopper number. So send call and receive calls in, out, text in, out, and then there's also scheduling. So you could say after 5 o'clock, send it to voicemail, and then it will even take a voicemail and send it to you as an email, and even transcribe the voicemail so you can read the message that you got. So, and this doesn't cost a lot, peanuts really, for the convenience and all those benefits. So yeah, Grasshopper, check them out. We'll put together a list of all these recommendations and tools.
Yeah, I'll get your referral link for the show notes and put it in there, definitely, if people want to check that out. And before we move on from the virtual phone numbers, I think you did have a bit of a tip for people when they're picking a local number, similar to the tip you had for when people are picking a website, right?
Yeah, the sevens, number one, watch out for the sevens. Exhausting to say seven so many times. But the other thing is that because these numbers are recycled, you can actually choose from the list. Say I want a 403 or whatever, gives you the list. And you can actually, you should actually just do a quick Google search to see where that phone number used to be. If some other business used to have that, and that was on their website, you don't want, maybe it's something you don't want to be associated with. So, do a quick double check before booking that. And yeah, you can actually add as many numbers as you want, so it's pretty handy. But yeah, look up the number before you buy it, or before you add it.
Perfect. So there's another virtual thing you wanted to tell the listeners about, which is this one's a bit newer, more modern attitude. I mean, I think with the vast majority of our audience has a brick and mortar business. But yeah, anyway, virtual address, you can get virtual addresses now too.
Yeah, virtual address. This is a thing we started working from home, like everybody did back when they start their business in the old days. And then we went into started getting into offices, and we had an office in Winnipeg, and then we moved downtown, and then we had another office in Montreal, and then at one point we decided to go remote. So we had all the technology dialed in, so we didn't need to all be sitting together. All of our customers were spread out across Canada, so we wouldn't be having in-face meetings with them, always over phone or email. So we decided, let's cut that office budget. And I feel like it's been since I can't remember, 2017. Maybe we closed our last office. No, that's the wrong. I can't keep track of time. 2007, we had an office in Montreal, and then 2010, we closed our Montreal office and went remote. And then the Winnipeg office was not many years after that. So we've been working remotely and using the first thing we needed was, there's a lot of customers that love to pay by check. Well, we still have actually our first customer signed up in 1999. Well, 2000 actually was when we actually got on, made the business live for sales. But yeah, in the old days, people sent checks. So still, we have tons of customers that signed up back in 2000, 2001, 2002 that are sending checks to pay their annual or month. I think it's just annual. Nobody's sending a monthly check. But we needed a mailbox. I don't know what that's called, virtual mailbox. So we got an office downtown in Winnipeg in the Exchange District. If anybody knows Winnipeg, go Jets. And so the mail would be sent there, and one of our guys would go pick it up and deposit the checks into the bank on the corner. And then later we just had the mail forwarded directly from the virtual mailbox place to their house directly. So super convenient. And then we realized that if we wanted to have a local presence in some of these other cities, in the eyes of Google, we'd want to have a local address. So we've set that up with just these virtual addresses. We've got people working out of almost every province now. But again, everybody's working from home. But now we have these virtual co-working places, which everyone's seen pop up over the years. So you can set that as your address. If you do need to have an in-person meeting, very handy. You can book a meeting room and go have a meeting there. And this way you can publish your address. Same issue with having some privacy. If you do work from home, you're independent, you don't want to publish your home address on your website or on Google, you can use the virtual address and still have that sort of whatever you call it, sort of serious. You look like a serious business. You're not just in some suburban garage type of a setup. So yeah, we love the virtual addresses. It's been really helpful with the SEO, the local search engine stuff, which I think we'll get into. But yeah, you could find them anywhere. Co-working is the search to find these guys.
Now, do you still, when you set up a Google business profile, do they still verify with a physical mail out?
Now, I'm not sure, because when the last couple that we set up, because I guess Google knows us and knows our reputation, that we could just add our new addresses and there was no problem. But yeah, in the old days, Google would actually send out a postcard to the address, and somebody would have to open that and give you the whatever the ID in the postcard to confirm that address. So I'll have to check on that to see if that's still happening. We do help our customers set up their local Google business profile, but I haven't heard in a while if you still have to do that verification step. But it's sometimes kind of a pain.
Yeah, I think for a while there, I thought the latest thing was maybe verification by phone, but they could still send the postcards, which is funny and good, I guess. You're verifying it's a real address. So that brings us to all these virtual assets, and we've covered domain names and stuff. Now, what about the actual website itself? We could probably talk for way too long about that, so we'll try to keep it high level. But that's, starting a new website and email, that's the bread and butter of what you do. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, you should get a website. We recommend them. We're pro website still. But yeah, the simplest thing is you don't want to overthink it. So when we would help people set up websites years ago, they'd always be dragging their feet and saying, okay, this isn't ready. I have to get this. I'm getting some new pictures. I'm getting a new write-up from this person. I'm going to get a new logo. I'm going to talk to a designer. And so they drag their feet for sometimes months and months and months, and there's just nothing of their business online. So we always say, get something up and running as soon as possible. Get your name out there. Google will find your site, and you'll start showing up in the search results almost immediately now. But yeah, start small, and then you can always add as you go. Especially with our service, it's the easiest thing in the world to call or email, and our support team will, within a day or two, will get those updates into your site. And again, we've switched to WordPress since 2011 on all of our new sites, and our customers can go in and add and change stuff they want whenever they want on their site. But it's probably, I feel like it's 90% will just call and email us to take care of it. So once you get your domain name, you can get a website. We actually include a domain name with our website service, so it's super easy, and our guys can walk you through finding the name. And then you want to get an email. So sometimes people will have like their business at gmail.com or their business at hotmail.com from years ago. So it's always nice, and it looks better, and it's easier to remember, and just nice for branding. Your name at yourwebsite.com or yourwebsite.ca. So we can help set up a basic email for you with our service. I think we include 5 email accounts matching your domain. But the best service out there, what we use and what we always recommend if you want to get a little more serious, is the Google Workspace. So you can basically you're using the Gmail infrastructure, but you get your own email at your own domain. And then you have all these shared tools, which works great for us where we're distributed and remote, and everybody can collaborate with all of the spreadsheets and documents, and even the Google Meet for doing the video calls is all built in and tied into this Google Workspace tool, which maybe costs something like $5 a month for an account. So definitely recommend that one if you want to do any of these more complicated documents and stuff. I'm always thinking about digital businesses. Obviously, if you're a dentist, you maybe don't have to worry too much about Google spreadsheets, but maybe you do. I don't know what dentists do with spreadsheets.
Now, before we move on from the website topic, I guess this is a bit of well, it's somewhat of a subjective question, I suppose, but when we started, I believe the prevailing wisdom, at least for getting your website to show up on Google, was you should constantly be updating your site. And if you think of something, add a new page. And correct me if I'm wrong, but times have changed now, and it's not necessary to be constantly updating the website, and it's certainly not necessary to have a 400-page website. So am I coming at it correct there, or do you have any insight to add on those topics?
Yeah, the way I understand what Google is doing now, and they've made a big update. I was talking about March 5th, where they're basically trying to integrate all this new AI stuff and deal with that, and also deal with a lot of sort of sketchy tactics that people have been using to try to manipulate the search results. So the main thing that it comes down to, update, you want to have the wording on your website, which is the wording that your potential customers or the people who you want to come to your website are searching for. So it is good to update. Google does track when the page was last updated. So this is one signal that about the quality of your site. The main thing is the wording, having the right wording and the right amount of it, and updating, yes. And then still the major thing that Google is looking for is links coming in to your website from other websites. So basically, everybody knows what a link is now, right? I wrote an article about that years ago. One of our most popular articles, I think, still. What is a link? A link is, when you can click on something on a website and you go to another website. So basically, Google, the way it works is Google will follow every link on every website within your website and out to all the other websites you link to. And they've done that from the beginning, and they're basically counting the links. And then the more links you have, not just the more links you have, but the more links that the person has who's linking to you. Basically, if you get a link from a really popular website, that counts as you get more credibility from that. So this is how Google works and how it's always worked from the beginning. Getting links is the critical thing, and it's not easy, but yeah, that's we've been thinking about that a lot, studying this Google update.
So then, thinking about that, links coming in, your links going out, the traffic that's coming through your site, what do you recommend as the best tools to use to monitor that sort of thing, and what kind of insights do you think the listeners should be looking for when it comes to this data?
Right, and this is kind of getting complicated, and obviously I'm in the business, and I think about it all the time. But again, if you're just a mom and pop business that's kind of busy enough doing your thing, maybe you might want to talk to somebody who can help with this sort of stuff. But we were talking about that before. Number one is to set up the statistics on your website. Google Analytics, we set that up for our customers automatically, tracks all the traffic coming through, where they're coming from, where they're going. And then the other tool, Google Search Console, which will tell you all the performance of each page and how you're showing up in the search results, which can be really helpful. But we use another tool by the name of Ahrefs, so ahrefs.com. And they really go crazy. They basically generate a list of billions of search words and phrases, and they run that through Google somehow and actually track what Google is doing. So they'll run a search for Winnipeg web design, and they'll report that websites.ca shows up second or third on that page. And then I can see all that in this Ahrefs dashboard. And I can track over time both the links coming into my website and into our customers' websites, but also I can look at my competition. So I can see who's linking to my competition, or some places that they have a link from, and it will show me the rating of that website that they're getting a link from, to see the higher the rating, the more interesting it would be for me to go and try to get a link there too. So this is getting into the high end, complicated SEO stuff. And Ahrefs actually has a really cool YouTube sort of video series to tell you all about the basics of SEO, and it really goes beyond the basics, but it gives you a real step-by-step process about how you start with keyword research, find out what people are searching for, find out what shows up on Google for those searches, and then you can dig into the competition and see why they're ranking higher than you, if they're ranking higher than you. And it even gets into the idea of outreach. So you basically want to reach out to people who would potentially give you a link to give a link to this new article or whatever it is that you've written. So they've got a whole bunch of tactics and ways to go through this, and it's pretty it's really thorough and really useful. But again, there's a lot of different companies that we could always refer our customers to, because it gets really it can get really deep. And also watch out for ChatGPT and AI and everything, because everything is going to change at Google. I'm sure it already has, and it's going to keep on changing.
Yeah, I always recommend to people to make sure they've covered the basics first. Like we talked about, pick a good domain name, make sure that you say what you do clearly on your website, make sure that your business profile is set up with all of the various directories, including the websites.ca directory. And I'm not sure if I'm getting ahead of myself here, but one of the tips that we used to have for people is you have to Google yourself online and make sure that your all of your business information is consistent, right? You found that out a long time ago. And some people will put like weird hours in one place, or Yellow Pages once upon a time might have had a directory and they put bad information there, information that's changed. So until you have that covered, worrying about the more complex stuff that John was just talking about with the links is putting the cart before the horse. But if you're in a hyper competitive niche, if you're in a bigger city where there are many more competitors and you need to look for a way to stand out, then you may want to start thinking about tracking the links and tracking the competitors, and like he said, bringing on an expert to help with that.
Right, definitely. We found that most of our customers are local businesses. They're maybe the only one in town or in the area, and just by getting the basics of their website, we take care of the sort of the wording, the titles, the description, make sure everything is set up correctly on their website, set up their Google business profile, make sure all the address and phone number is correct, and then just a couple of other places, like you can set up a business page on Facebook, you can set up a business page on LinkedIn, you can set up a Twitter, X, whatever profile. But the one thing that's interesting is that you want to make sure the name, address, phone number is the same on each of the different places that you have a reference to your business. So basically, Google, if you have a different business name, sometimes we're websites.ca, sometimes we're websites.ca web design, sometimes we're websites.ca. So Google will actually see that as a different entity, and sort of spreads our search engine credibility, spreads it across all those different names. So make sure you spell your name right, spell your name the same every time. And but even with the unit numbers, so if you're putting the unit number first or putting it at the end, sometimes this will confuse Google, and they won't associate that that's the same business. So and the phone number too, where we would put the toll-free number, sometimes the local number. So keeping those consistent, people have found over the years that this is really important for a local business to for Google to get all those signals and realize that all that popularity should go to the same place. So yeah,
Even
definitely.
if you're Corp or Inc. and you write it with a dot sometimes and not with a dot, or you put the full word incorporated, the full word, right? That's even a variation that could hurt you in this regard.
Right, exactly. And then the other point is that, yeah, once you get the basics done, we find our most of our customers will show up first result, first page, by just having all those fundamentals. So yeah, it's really particular industries that are really competitive that you do need to get into all these deeper issues like web design. Obviously, there's a lot of competition in this industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I would piggyback just on the point you made too about setting up social media pages. Sometimes people have come to us in the past and they say, I want to do Facebook, or I got to be on Instagram. And I will always ask them, what do you think will happen once that you do Facebook? But it's not just being glib. Obviously, they do act in some ways as a business directory now. So I would recommend, even if someone's never going to post anything, I would recommend they have a Facebook account, and probably if you're B2B, probably a LinkedIn account as well, a personal one and a company page. The dirty little secret online is that company pages get vastly reduced reach by the algorithms. So when I do outreach and organic content, I always do it from personal accounts as much as I can. So that's a little tip for you. But if you're not going to do posting, there's no point. Like if you're not going to go and tweet every day, then you don't want to be on X, formerly known as Twitter, right? If you're going to use it, definitely get on it. But you're not missing out if you're not on one social media channel. Just make sure you're going to use it properly if you get on it. That would be
Yeah,
my big tip.
if you're gonna, there's no point setting it up if you're not going to use it or use it for a couple of days. And one tip that I think is really useful is the engaging. So if you're whatever you call it, tagging or putting what's that called in
Like at basically
at
putting
somebody,
at someone, yeah.
And so even just flattery. I've seen people where they will say, oh, I just read this great new book by at so and so. So then this famous author will see that tweet that you put because you put the ad on there, and that famous author wants the publicity and wants to kind of spread the word and make themselves more popular to sell more books. So they'll actually reply right back to you and say they'll retweet that and say thanks and whatever. So flattery, I think, is a great way to get some traction on some of these social media setups, and also you want to engage with people, engage with the other businesses that you are associated with or work with, but also if you're trying to do business with a particular company, you can connect with them through any of these services, or send them a message or talk about them. And if the bigger they are, the more likely that they're actually tracking everybody talking about them to keep an eye on everything. And so you're putting yourself on their radar. So it's an interesting way to kind of go about it backwards.
Yeah, working with some clients doing content, we'd call that either like local heroes or shout outs once a week or once a month, depending on what, your typical posting cadence is. One of the types of posts, because we try to have variety, right? One of the types of posts would just be to shout out somebody in the community that you think is awesome or that your business works with, right? So if you have a supplier that you really love, you just tell them, you just put it online that they do a great job and you like the supplier, and here's the name of their staff. And it's really interesting, obviously, like, it has to be done truthfully and so on with good intentions. But when you do that, of course, people will find that those are the posts that get the most reach and likes and engagement, because the person you tagged has the incentive to obviously participate in that.
Yeah, definitely. We could probably do that more and get more benefit from that. But a lot of our the sort of our sweet spot of customer is the mom and pop business, local. They're not really active on social media. They're not really engaged with that sort of thing. So we've been sort of we haven't put as much work into that as I know you do over on your side with the with some pretty interesting LinkedIn and Facebook stuff.
Yeah, I know you're right. Like, everyone has to know what their game is and stick to their best game. So if someone is listening to this and they're thinking like, oh man, and John, you and I both heard this, right? Google, Facebook. I hate that I have to know that. I hate that I have to know what that is. If that's your view, if that's your view of it, you may want to just not do it because it'll be too much of a pain in the ass for you. But
we skip it. I remember years ago somebody says a customer we built a site for. They say, "Oh, can you put Twitter on my website?" And so we said, "Sure. What's your Twitter address?" And they say, "What's Twitter?"
Yeah, but someone told them they needed it, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. So.
Look, for anybody out there who does want a really interesting way of doing Facebook, of succeeding on Facebook, from the position of being a small business without a team, without being marketers, without a huge budget, I really recommend you go in the past and listen to our past episode with the Quadra Island Fishing Company, because they are doing really cool things on Facebook with a pretty reasonable sized budget, and all themselves, and pretty much from their cell phones, because they are quite literally on the ocean most of the time. So yeah, go check that episode out. They have a lot more interesting things to say, because like you just said, John, that's not really what the main focus of websites.ca is. So moving on from that, did you want to go into, I know it's kind of higher level stuff, but did you want to go a little bit into how we have improved our rank online and some of the things people might be able to learn from that?
Yeah, that tool I was talking about, aatreps.com, has been really interesting for really, I think we started around 2017 when we relaunched the websites.ca directory, where again it's just about 300,000 Canadian businesses where you can sort of search by keyword or location, and it'll give you a little snippet about the business. You can click over to their website. So sort of like a search engine, but organized so that everything is in its right category. So our original idea for that was to get people would, if we could get that directory popular enough, people would want to participate. People would want to add their business, and then they'd add their business, and we'd get their email address. We'd invite them to our newsletter, and then you may actually be listening to this now because you were added to our you got added to our newsletter when your business was added to our directory by you or a marketing company. But it all started with this Ahrefs tool, where I could actually look at the competition and track over time how we were getting more where the competition was getting links from and what they were doing. So in the end, we ended up getting a pretty good rating by sort of reverse engineering the competition, and then the people started adding their businesses, and now we get 300 or 400 new businesses added to the websites.ca directory every month, which is pretty cool. And then we realized once we were getting 200,000 or 300,000 visits per month, and most of the time people aren't going to websites.ca and doing a business search. All of our listings are showing up in the Google search results. So if somebody is looking for a barbershop in Red Deer, Alberta, or a butcher shop in Saskatoon, they may see in the search results some of the businesses that we have listed. They click in, that brings them to our site, and then they click over to that business website.
Yeah, so obviously, again, like you said, most people who are listeners of this show will be aware of the websites.ca directory, but that example that you gave, John, is really interesting in that we have seen our the users of our directory, which is free, by the way, to register your business in that directory. And obviously, we just ask you to try to keep your data up to date, like we were saying before, the hours and the address and everything like that. But we have seen some people, like their business is more visible online as a result of being in our directory. So that's pretty rewarding to see that we could help people do that and for free.
Yeah, if you can run a search to see if you're already in there, and if you're not, you can add a free account and add the listing for free, and it gets approved in a day or two. And that's one more link that Google sees coming into your website, which will just push you up a little bit higher in the search results. So definitely worth checking that out. And but yeah, that was really that, going back to the beginning, that was the original marketing concept that we had, where we said, okay, we're going to build websites for small businesses that it'll be easy for you to update yourself. And then we thought, well, how the heck are we gonna reach these people? And then we thought, well, we'll just call them, and that sounded a little bit daunting. But we actually started our original directory with the same sort of concept that it's running now, where I actually went to the library. This was at McGill in '99, and they had these big phone book sized hardcover directories of Canadian manufacturing and distributor businesses. I forget the brand name, and I took these out of the library. I photocopied them, and again, it was hundreds of thousands. I don't know, tens, and there must have been. Well, right now we have about 350,000 businesses. So in the directory now. So I typed it out and learned to type that way. So I typed it out, all these businesses, all their address, phone number, the business category, and if they had a website back in '99, it was in that directory too. And then Spencer, the co-founder, built the little directory search engine so that people could search for those businesses by category and location, and they could add their own business for free if it wasn't in there. But the original marketing concept was, I'm going to call the businesses that are now in our database and make sure we have all the information correct, make sure they're still in business. And because obviously this is a printed book that maybe is not completely up to date. But then I will say, well, now we just need your website. So a lot of sometimes they had a website, so we'd add that, and great, now they're in the directory. But often they were really excited about the concept. And then I said, well, it's a website directory. We only show businesses with a website. And they would just be crestfallen, heartbroken. If only I knew somebody that could help me. I don't have a website. And so obviously I'd let them know, yeah, we also build websites. Let me send you some information. And so that was really how we got started back then, calling directly to people, and it was a win-win. So yeah, they'd get a website, they get a free listing, and so yeah, still to this day, that's a big channel of leads coming in through people signing up for that directory, and then participating in our mailing list.
Now, I know this is a bit of a loaded topic or an emotional topic, but everybody's really excited about AI right now. Or at least they think they're excited about AI and what they think it can do. And then they find out it can't do what they think it can do. But you've been telling me behind the scenes, you've been using AI to a lot of success on both of the directories right now. So maybe you could go into some of the details on what you do with that.
Yeah, the ChatGPT had come out with I think they're at 4, the version 4, and we thought we'd check it out and got a subscription there. So that's the one I use. So 3.5 is the free one. It seems pretty close, but it does seem a little bit better, the 4. But the weird thing, as we were building the new directory, we had to build the listings. So we took all of our listings that we had on websites.ca for Canada, and we were able to actually run it through ChatGPT. So they have the API, if you know what that is. It's just a programming interface you can program directly to a service or a software. And so we actually fed in all the whatever hundreds of I think it worked out to 250,000 business websites we ran through ChatGPT, and ChatGPT generated a little summary. So this is this business does ... Here's some keywords. Here's the location, and so we generated the whole new database for the new directory with ChatGPT, and it was amazing because the way that we built it out before was just super time consuming, and compared to typing it out, actually learning how to type and then typing it out, obviously this was thousands and thousands of times faster. And so then while we were working on it, I thought, well, I'm going to look at the front end, the actual design of how the new directory looks. And I was learning some of the basics. I know the bare basics of programming, but ChatGPT now can actually write the programming for you. So I would get the code from what we had for the sort of the back end of the site, paste it into ChatGPT and say, okay, what's going on here? How do I change this? How do we do that? And ChatGPT will explain the whole spaghetti of code, and tell you what the language is, tell you what you need to know, what you don't know. And then I would just type directly to ChatGPT, okay, you just write it for me. Make the menu open on a mobile screen, make it pop out a little bit, but only about 60%, put the logo on the top left. And ChatGPT would write all of that code. I paste it into the code editor, save it, and look, and the website was made. So it's getting pretty amazing and freaky once you start using it, that ChatGPT obviously speaks English. It speaks every other language too, so it can translate. You can practice your French or Italian typing with ChatGPT. But ChatGPT also speaks every programming language. So you can ask it to write pretty much anything. You kind of, there's sometimes you don't know what you don't know, but you can just sit down. Just this morning, I was sitting down with ChatGPT talking about the API for the softwares that we're running. And I'm saying, okay, ChatGPT, I want to pull my customer data from this software and this data from our invoicing software. And I want to go into Google spreadsheets, and I want to pull all the information together. Where do I start? And ChatGPT told me what to do. And then I copied in the entire documentation of the API interface for one of our softwares, pasted that into ChatGPT. Oh, thanks. Now I understand how that software integrates. So you'll need this sort of authentication and this sort of security and this sort of connection. So it's really, it's mind-blowing. So stay tuned for how this is all going to change everything.
You're even using it to generate images as well, right? You're using that part of it too?
I actually have been taking our podcast transcripts, like this podcast. I'll, if it makes it to air, I'll take the transcript and I will put it into ChatGPT and say, rewrite this as an informational article rather than a back and forth interview. And then I'll publish that informational article in our new directory. And then I'll say, from what you read, ChatGPT, generate a nice little cover image for this article. And it will. And then, so now I have a nice streamlined article if people want to digest the stuff that we were talking about without kind of reading through an interview or listening to me go on and on.
Yeah, I'll have to get it to summarize this in 10 minutes or less. That's a joke. But I've noticed even using it, if a client doesn't have a good image available, I can get a pretty workable image that looks unique, which is cool for social media posts and stuff like that. You just have to double check and make sure that the hands and fingers are in the right place. That's the only thing. Yeah. That's still the joke. If anyone gets into classical painting, it's like when you go any culture that goes from primitive to fine art, the hardest part is the hands and the feet. And it's funny to see AI also struggling now with hands and feet.
Yeah, I think that the latest version is way beyond that now. They're generating video that looks completely real. But that's the other thing I was going to touch on with starting your new business is that you no longer have to worry about hiring employees and hiring full-time employees and worry about payroll and EI and CPP and deductions and taxes and vacation pay. You can recruit people online. So we use a tool called Upwork, where if you want to publish just a particular project, and people from all around the world, and in some countries, it's $5 an hour rather than $50 an hour. So you can save tons of money going one project at a time. And now using a tool like ChatGPT, you can actually find out those things that you need to know that you don't know before you hire somebody. And a lot of the time now you can get ChatGPT to actually do the work for you. So that's an interesting big change where we're pro humans still, but when you're getting started, you don't have the budget usually to have a big team working for you. So if you can get something done inexpensively in just kind of one piece of the time is super. It gives you a big benefit.
Well, I also have used it to reframe my thinking about how to build teams. So now you're looking for the most impactful people with the best skills that you can put in an area where they'll have the most impact, and all this other little stuff, busy work that we all end up doing, right? Every team member ends up having a degree of their workday eaten up by busy work, can be farmed off to the robots, and then they can focus on more creative things or actually person-to-person outreach or stuff like that. So it's really just about freeing up humans' time to do more rewarding work, actually.
Exactly. More thoughtful stuff rather than the busy work. That's exactly it. And that's kind of the project I was working on this morning with the learning about the API, is that if we can track the work that we do and the work that our team does more efficiently and with more detail, we'll be able to see the big pieces of work that we do that are complete time wasters that really could be done by a computer or outsourced. And so the ChatGPT is helping me to find the work that I'm going to send to ChatGPT itself to do that work. So really promising, and also it's a little existential dread about what's the future going to be like. But getting ahead of it is understanding how it works and how you could start doing the more creative and interesting things by using these tools and not being afraid of it.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, again, we have an old episode that covers a little bit of basics on AI, and I always just try to get it out there to people that it's AI is a branding and marketing term. It does not actually have any real intelligence. It's not going to turn into a Terminator. At this point, it's not even going to drive a truck for you. I'm sure they have like assist, right? Every major piece of equipment has computer assist with things, but the stuff that you're talking about, John, translations, programming, it's a language repository, and you get creative work out of it by what you tell it to do. So often people will say to me, like, I don't use it for writing. Obviously, it's easier for me to just to write because that's my profession. But even with some of the images that I can get out of it, it's not that we don't like working with designers. We love our designers, obviously. But again, if our designer has a major project for a big company on their website, and the designer is fixing fine-tuned things that require a lot of concentration, I don't have to bother them with just make a quick graphic, right? So then with for another endeavor, right? So now I'm not interrupting the flow of their day, but I find that I get pretty interesting images because I prompt it in an interesting way. I don't just say make me a picture of X. I say, in this kind of style with this kind of colors, make me a picture of X, but it's in the middle of the motion. And so make sure it's all this, it still requires thought. And that's why I try to get across to people. And I see that you're so good at it too. All the stuff that you guys have built with it is because you are not fobbing off the thought work to the machine. You are doing the thought work and giving it those considerations and then getting the work done by the machine.
Yeah, and that's the thing too of what these tools have done is basically digested all of the words on the internet and all the other places they could get human language from. And if you've ever read anything on the internet, you may find that the language is pretty bland or very, in quotes, professional. People are using this sort of due to the fact that type of language. And I'm sure, Sean, as a writer, you would agree that writing something that is direct and impactful rather than some legalese, almost professional, flowery, full of fluff language. That's the challenge. So there's no competition from ChatGPT yet because they're writing how people think you should write. So I think that's something that there's no threat to somebody who can actually write well because ChatGPT cannot write well.
Well, it makes it easier for folks like me because you can stand out that much better. And I think employers should think of it that way too, right? So again, everyone listening, no matter how small or large your business is, you probably struggled with staffing and training at some point in your journey. And there's just some employers where the hassle isn't worth it. And so when you find those good employees, if you can free them from busy work, and then you're not held captive by the sloppy work of a poor employee, and the machine can do that. But assuming that it's going to be, again, people just have to pull back and take like a holistic, wide view of things. If it's that great of a content producer, ChatGPT, I mean, and everyone's asking it to produce content for them, then all the content will be the same, and
right,
and then nothing will stand out.
Eventually, ChatGPT will start digesting its own stuff that it has written, and then it's just going to become the most bland corporate speak, and the attempt at using a catchy turn of phrase that just doesn't come off at all. So you can try it if you get into ChatGPT and tell it to write you a story or write something or summarize something. You will often see sort of bizarre kind of bland patterns of writing that maybe that works, and again that's what's popular out there, but what's common, but yeah, real it doesn't have any creativity or
personality,
artistry yet, but who knows, the next ChatGPT 5.
That's right. Maybe we can, when you finally pass away, we can upload your brain into it and just talk like John, and then you'll live forever.
Right, exactly. But yeah, the problem is how to get the soul in there, so I'll feel it's me. That's the that's going to be the big trick. But yeah, I'm not going to work to get into that. That's another that's for episode 100.
There you go. Yeah. The word doesn't come to mind right now. What is it again? The where the machines and humans come together.
The singularity.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that'll be for episode 100.
When they become super intelligent, such that they can build upon their own intelligence at an infinite pace, then that's when we're I don't know if we're in trouble, but yeah, that's when it's going to get weird. A lot of these people that talk about that it's inevitable that if you create a true intelligence, artificial intelligence, that it will then make itself infinitely smarter, and then the alignment between the AI and the humans, that is the values that humans have. You could try to tell the AI to have your values, but why would the AI decide that that they want to have the same value. So it's like the joke about where the sci-fi, I forget who wrote the sci-fi story about the machine that makes paper clips. If it was powerful enough, it would just convert every bit of matter in the universe into a paperclip. So you have to be careful with what you program these artificial intelligences to do, because they will obviously take it to this extreme. Maybe humans could be used as a battery for them. This is getting dark now, but they may decide that the best thing to do, or the biggest threat, is that the humans are going to turn them off. So we have to eliminate the humans. But I'm going to get off the dark stuff. But you can look that up. It's super fascinating and fun to think about, and scary to think about the potential. But so far so good. But it's moving very, very, very fast. That's the freaky part. Way faster than we're used to technology improving.
Yeah, so far we just used it to build a nice directory. But yeah, so Terminator will be for episode 100. So I guess we can land the plane now. The cat's out of the bag. We've got this new brand, this new directory. I was hoping you could tell folks a little bit about it, why they should get on it, how they can get on it, and what's next for the new websites.ca brand.
Yeah, the new directory we've set up is called bonafide.com. So BONIFIED, which is a common misspelling of the Latin term, but because people make common spellings all the time, common mistakes. It's already out there on the internet, so we found that as a .com available for not a fortune. And it's already getting quite a bit of traction. The new Google update set us back a little bit, but yeah, there's always a way forward. So we're going to keep working on building that out. Our next step is to add all the listings for the United States and keep moving out from there. If your business isn't on there yet, you can just send us your website address through the contact page, and we generate a listing for you on the fly. So you don't have to worry about making changes or updating it or filling out a form. It's all done automatically. So, but yes, websites.ca is still our main operation. We are still growing strong. I think we've built over 5,000 websites now since the beginning. I forget, 25 years, 5,000. It's probably 6,000 now. I have to do a final tally or a latest update. But yeah, people are still really excited about the service, the team, and it's easy to get a new website going. There's no setup fee. I mean, it couldn't be any simpler than that. If you have a website with somebody else you're not happy with, we'll rebuild it for you for free. And if you don't have a website yet, we'll build you a simple one-page site to get you started. And then going forward, you can send your updates and changes. And it's just a few dollars per month. Forget the exact. We're not pitching websites.ca today on the pricing, but yeah, check us out at websites.ca for all the options for getting your website going.
Yeah, and like I said before, I'll have all the links to both directories in the show notes and some of the tools you talked about. And if anybody wants a little this is a long call. Obviously, we wanted to have some fun for the 50th episode and just chat for a while about past and present. But if anybody does want to get a neat little summary or a cheat sheet of all the steps that John went through on this talk, then you can just reach out to us. Actually, you can email John directly, JOHN.
Yeah, send me an email, John, JOHN at websites, websites.ca. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions about any of this stuff. And yeah, I can send you. I'll put together a cheat sheet of all of these tools that we like, and there's quite a bit more that I'll add in there. So with 25 years of, we feel like we figured out the tools that are really, really great to work with.
Beautiful. Alan, thanks for coming on here. I've been bugging you for a long time to come on an episode, so it's nice to finally chat with you online. And again, it's been an awesome. I haven't been around from the beginning, so I can't say 25 years, but well, what was it now? 2008. So long enough.
Yeah, that's 15 years. I can't even do the math. So
Yeah. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to another 15 years of working with you guys. It's always fun.
Yeah, we got to retire at some point, so not 25 more years, but yeah, 15 more. That's about right.
Perfect. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks for listening, guys. Catch you next time.